Right, after having the introduction for the fun run, let's move on. And I was asked to explain two more things before we move on and actually look at the detail of the code. The one is the database itself. The database itself, let's quickly scroll to that part, is of type Access 2003, as you can see here, typical extension MDB. And of course that specific database, then Access database, needs a specific driver. And that specific driver is important, and we didn't mention it at this stage. So let's quickly go back to the connection string, because you'll find it right in here. We are building that connection, and let's go back to the building, and we actually jumped over the first tab here. And that provider is nothing else than a driver from Microsoft. And for 2003 Access, we can use Microsoft Jet 4.0, which is working fine. From anything older, like 2007 onwards, the extension is then renamed to ACCDB, which is a more advanced of data structure. So we need to move then to Microsoft Office 12.0. But since we don't have it here, we are not making use of it. Okay, so I just wanted to have that mentioned. A second part is on the database side itself. Going back to Access, there is a special tuned in field, and let's quickly go back to that field, like winners. On the winner side, we have got a time field, and that time field is specially indexed. So let's quickly go to view here, and let's go to design view, that we can get some more detail here. No space around here, eh? Okay, let's just scroll down to the field time. And as you can see further down here, the time is well indexed. Duplicates, of course, are permitted, since two people can have the same time. So it gives us an approximate type of sequence and order, not 100% sequence and order, since we don't have unique items inside that field. But for sorting purposes, it's nice to have an indexed field for the time specifically. Right. Let's move on, and let's move back to the introduction screen. Maybe some of you were a little bit surprised by the dimming out of that first introduction screen. So let's have a quick look at what is happening and how did we achieve that one. And here's the source code for that. For those who wondered, each and every form has got like an alpha blending, and that alpha blending was used here. So clicking on that screen, let's quickly select this form intro, and looking then up to the properties, and there you see the alpha blend value being by default 255, and the alpha blending itself is switched off by default. Now through coding, whatever we see here in design time that can be changed of course in coding also. So we're just putting on that alpha blend, and then by some specific decrementing, we are taking this 255 down till it's close to 0, and then it disappears. So that's the only thing that is happening here. So let's have a glimpse at the code. As the form comes up, alpha blending is switched on. Subtraction factor at this point of time is just a 1, so 255 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 all the time, and the timer then is switched on, which is the decrementing. The moment the value then reaches like less than 20, we of course close the form, but above that 20 we have a subtraction value of subtract plus 0.5, so we're actually decrementing in steps of a half. So let's just quickly go over here that we can see the complete code. That's just some special formula I worked on, which is then decrementing the value. Fine. Let's move on then to my fun run application itself and taking it right from the front. We've got some limited, we call it global values, variables here. We could make them class data members upstairs here, better OOP thinking, and we should limit those global variables in any case, but some are really necessary since we are making use of those variables across different events. So first step here is we're having some randomization. Now that randomization is not necessary anymore from xe2 because the random function itself is providing unique new sequences of random numbers. So we don't need to kick on the random machine. Redundant or something in that line. So on a later stage we can actually look into this. Then just supplying some date at the bottom of the screen and then forcing to tab sheet 1. So that's what we are doing here. Then initializing the moment we click on the new button. Let's recall where's my new button, new applicants button. We need to clean out all these different components, which is then we are hiding a button and message here in form of a label. Then the speed buttons itself are disabled and the focus is put into the ID box. And most interesting up here, open DB table, we have to activate that specific table if it's not yet active through design time tunings. And then we make ready to insert a new record. Of course, before inserting, we have to issue the insert command, and that's what we're doing here. Now here's an interesting one, db id num change. And I wrote as a comment here, all 4 db edit boxes or db comma boxes are calling this event. Now let's quickly go over to those ones. There we've got one, there I've got one. The moment something is changed, that is an on-change event. They're all running to the very same event. Now let's go over to the events and let's see where we are. There's my on-change event defined based on that specific component called db id num. That's common. We know how to do this. The interesting part is if I'm coming to that second db edit box, how do I link it up? And that's quite easy and straightforward. We've got this drop down here and all similar type of events which could fit that specific component could be selected here. So we just go down to pick the right one and slot it in here. So we did the same for that one, same for that one, and so on. Wonderful. If all that is in place, let's move on with the coding. So we are just double checking here whether all these different components then have got some text inside, and only if they're all filled with text we grant some verification. So the verification button is then switched on. Now a self-defined method, as you can see it here, is used to switch over that rand value, like the person contributed 200 rand as he applied for it. Now to work with these numbers we have to strip it off from the rand, the currency, and we have to make it like a real value. So that's happening right here inside the question paper then, or the task sheet. It will be told to you. In our case we've got a local method here, or then a local function here. You don't see it's not embedded inside my form. You can of course do so if you like to do so, and could just like insert that here, and then of course copy the whole signature of that function upstairs to be part of your form class. But let's leave it a local function. And as you know, a local function has to be designed and has to be defined before we actually use it any stage later. So it is defined right here. What's happening here? We're getting in as a parameter the currency string as a string, since it has got the rand in front. Then we're going for the length here. We're running from 1 subscript 1, Delphi starts with a subscript 1, up to the length of that specific item. And each time we're testing each one of those characters, whether that specific selected character is bigger than a full stop, which is our decimal separator, and smaller equal than a 9. Now, why on earth are we doing this? Maybe the best is to compare it with the ASCII table. So let's quickly get an ASCII table up here.